about 117, thereabouts. Um, and, I was thinking before I hit that go live button that I should, sorry, I'm also in front of my computer here. Gonna look some stuff up um, as we talk, maybe. Comes in useful. Yesterday I looked up my favorite Hafiz, the Persian Sufi poet, um, for one of my favorite poems by him. And who knows what we'll look up today. But as I was saying, I was about to hit that go live button, and I thought, should I pause, compose myself, think of something that I'm actually going to say that might be worth talking about instead of stumbling around? But you know what? I think some of my best talks, for whatever that means, best, best in hell, you know, better than what, reminds me of the uh, quote in the Tao Te Ching about comparisons, that everything just is until we introduce a comparison, and then becomes something other, or it has the appearance of something other. Without that, who's to say? So I feel that some of my better, interjecting that comparison in there, um, talks are stumbling around, and then bam, you hit on a topic that strikes that chord of passion, and there's an uninterrupted flow of ideas that just come straight forward. That makes all the stumbling around worthwhile when you hit that note of inspiration and it all just comes. But you know what? I could come here with notes, note cards, something in front of me on the computer. Um, I could have someone here as a guest that I talk with, and I could still be stumbling around and not hit that sweet spot. You can't plan for it. There's books on how to enter the flow, and they might provide useful hints, some tips, but you really, honestly, you stumble into the flow. It reminds me of the debate that goes on in the, and I've mentioned this quite often, goes on in the non-duality community about whether or not um, meditation can lead to awakening. And of course, it's completely dogmatic in the um, meditation doesn't lead to awakening. No two ways about it. But any dogmatic thought puts you in the same box. And I see so many non duality people stuck in that box of thinking that there's just this, there's only this. Maybe. Or maybe you just perceive only this. Anyway, um, I'm of the belief, being a long time meditation practitioner as well as being a meditation teacher professionally, and of course, my non duality friends would hold that against me. But I am of the same thought as Jack Kornfield, the Buddhist meditation teacher and author, um, who says that meditation doesn't lead to awakening. Meditation or awakening is an accident, yet meditation makes you accident prone. Meditation loosens that grip that we have on on our own notion of how things should be. So, who's to say? This is me just stumbling around, seeing what I fall into. Um, I always have standbys, of course. I love talking about meditation, what it can do and what it can't do for people. I love talking about nature, the things that we need to do for sleep protocol, sleep hygiene to help us get the best sleep as well. and it all ties in together, as well as breath work. These are all science, all my passions, training, of course. When my burpee friends pop in and the conversation takes a turn towards how we're training, and obviously diet. Quite a few of my talks have been about diet, particularly the vegan, plant-based diet. And I try not to get, speaking of dogmatic, I try not to get dogmatic about my dietary approach. That, um, I mean, health-wise, I could say this works for me. Planetary-wise, I could say what we're doing is harmful for the planet. That's not dogmatic, that's simply science. Um, what I would say is that plant-based seems to be the best way to go for the all-round purpose of individual and planetary well-being. If you want to heal yourself, plant-based is the way to go. I'm not saying go vegan or even vegetarian. I'm saying plant-based, meaning that you increase the amount of plants that you're eating so that it becomes the majority of calories that you get in. That seems to be across the board. I know some people are um, debunking the blue zones, but there's a lot of evidence to support it as well. So I'm not a big fan of debunking overall. Um, and, you know, people have supposedly debunked the vegan diet, they have debunked the um, carnivorous diet. I would like to say find what works for you, but you know what? That's such an individual way of thinking. It's such a way of it's selfish eating. What works best for me? Does it work best for you if it sacrifices the health of an entire planet? Does it work best for you to be able to eat a large percentage of meat with every meal when the vast majority of our crops, which could feed every starving person in the world, let's be a little more modest, could feed every single starving child in the world. The vast majority of those crops go to feed cattle so that a few privileged people get to eat meat every single meal, get to eat double cheeseburgers and the meat lovers pizza and 36-ounce steaks, um, go bacon crazy on every single thing. It's like I see a lot of influencers on Instagram who are wearing fur. Now, I know they're not bad people, and if they would see the suffering of a fur farm, they would think twice about wearing it. Maybe, hopefully. But I don't think there's any excuse to be unaware any longer about the suffering that we cause. I think we need to wake up to the fact that we are responsible. We ourselves, individually, not collectively, not just collectively, we ourselves individually are responsible for the majority of suffering in the world. And it's easier for us to stay asleep. Because then we wake up and I think, well, damn, I didn't know. What can I do? Hopefully, we think that. Or we have that brief awakening and we think, I'm going back to sleep. It's easier. It's easier to pretend that I don't know. When we gather around a dinner table, we all have to collectively agree to pretend so deeply that we don't even realize we're pretending where our meat comes from. That we are ingesting suffering, that we're ingesting chemicals, hormones, all kinds of stuff that we'd rather not think about. So is it easier to stay asleep, coast through life, even though it's damaging the world and it's harming future generations? Or is it better to wake up and then think, I don't know what to do. I don't want to stop eating this. I don't want to stop wearing this. I don't want to adjust my air conditioning or heat to an uncomfortable level. I don't want to make any sacrifices. I don't want to use a hybrid car or an electric car. I want to keep driving my gasoline car, but I don't know what to do. I know it's wrong. Those are tough questions. But until we wake up, until we become aware, and then we admit that as we're aware, we need to make some changes and we need to help others make some changes. We need to talk and have open conversations, and we need to be open to the flack that we get in return for what we say. Until we do that, we're stuck. Our friend Destiny Forever Walks PhD is here. Hello, Eric. Happy Thursday. How are you today? I'm doing well. How are you today, Destiny? I'm sort of talking dietary, environmental, not exclusively. I stumbled upon the topic, and making changes and waking up before it's too late. That, you know, I really think the position that we have in life is to alleviate the suffering of others, and that when I say others, I'm not speaking exclusively the suffering of fellow human beings, but the planet itself. We're part of a living vibe. We're part of where we are. When I say part, it means it implies a sense of separation. And there is no separation. As the earth is, so are we. We're not going to find another planet. And even if we did, what would stop us from ruining another planet? As the universe is, so is the earth. And as the earth is, so are we. It's all one seamless connection. And even as a connection, again, implies that there's some type of separation. We are the universe. We are the world, to quote the 1980s hit that had a wonderful purpose. Not a great song, but it had a wonderful purpose behind it. Destiny says, I think it's better to wake up and face whatever it is in front of me and put the fearful past behind me. That's because you are a brave, brave person. And you've had your awakening. And I agree with you 1,000%. I also understand, I have empathy for the people who are afraid, for the people who don't want to wake up, who just peer over that curtain and think, nope, I'm not going there. That may be happening, but as long as I don't know about it, ignorance is bliss. Except our children are harmed for it, and people continue to suffer for it. You know, as I was talking about wearing fur, we may know that it involves a large amount of suffering, but I look good in it, or it feels good, or it keeps me warm. I'd rather not think about that suffering so I can continue to do what I do. So you've had that awakening, but you don't want to make the change, which isn't true awakening yet, in my belief. Destiny says that she's doing great. The Bible says that it's high time we wake up out of our sleep. Great wisdom in the Bible. And I agree. I just wonder, when are people going to do it? Look at Christianity, which is causes a high degree of suffering, and yet the message of Jesus couldn't be simpler. It also couldn't be kinder, and it couldn't be more loving. It couldn't be more forgiving. If you go to the actual words of Jesus, not interpretations of the Bible, the actual words of Jesus, he tells you, one, the kingdom of heaven is within. That means you can't go looking for another world. If you want to attain the kingdom of heaven, you look within and find it there. And if it's there, it's also within the person standing next to you, even though he might be a Democrat, even though he might be a Republican, even though he might be black, he might be white, he might be Asian, even though he might be gay, even though he might be transgendered. Doesn't matter. If the kingdom of heaven is here, it's also within that person, regardless. Came this close to saying irregardless. Um, Regardless of who and what you think they are, because what you think is just an opinion. It's just a thought. It has no basis in reality. The reality is the kingdom of heaven. Within them, within you, is the very same kingdom. I have a book, I'd have to dig for it. The Way of the Great Mind, where they talk about everything is perfect until we introduce that opinion, and then the world is split. Just that opinion, and the world is split. We live in a seamless world of love, beauty, instant forgiveness, because nothing can truly be harmed. And then we introduce an opinion, and we act on those opinions, believing just because we have them and just because an important person might share them, that they're true. They're not. It's an opinion. Destiny says, we are the universe, Eric, and the universe is in us. Yes. Destiny says, I am awakened and no more bound to religious beliefs in this matrix system. Clearly see that. I clearly see that. It's a beautiful place to be. It's a lonely place to be. Or it's a place of aloneness, which is sort of different. Alone means, I always go back to Ramana Maharishi's reply when he was asked by one of his followers, how do you treat others? And he simply smiled and looked at him and said, there are no others. That's aloneness. There are no others. There's just the universe in infinite appearances of diversity. All for the sake of beauty, all for the sake of love. Forever Terminator comes in. I have to go, but I see you guys. Eric Norris rocking the long beard. For now, comes and goes. I know you remember I see it on the big wall every once in a while. My ponytail days of last year. My COVID hair that I just decided since I was in isolation, I'd grow my hair out and see if I could return to my hippie roots. Did not go well. Guys, it did not go well at all. Destiny Walks Forever says that sounds like an interesting book to read. There's several discourses. He never wrote a book, Ramana Maharishi, but many people took down his words, his talks. For a long time, he taught in silence, just being in his presence. He had a deep, deep love of animals, and those deeply awakened people, St. Francis, Jesus, the Buddha, Ramana Maharishi, they all shared that deep, deep love of animals. You can tell so much from a person in their wish for animals. And when you see there are no others, you have to include every single species, from a spider to a cow to your next door neighbor. Reverend Terminator says, that's right. Good memories with ponytail. Not COVID, sure. But holla guy, check you up later. Take care, Reverend. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. Destiny says, alone doesn't always mean you're alone. Alone is also a personal time to learn about ourselves and to remember our past lives. And it's also our connection. You think we're all alone together. Meaning, when you truly see past that appearance of self, and you realize that the self, the personality, is an appearance within the infiniteness. I'm not sure infiniteness is a word, but it ought to be. Uh, an appearance within the infinite, an appearance within the infiniteness. Um, and yet the infinite we remain. When the personality is all that dies. What we are made up of simply goes back to what we already are. Personality comes and goes. The awareness that is witness to the personality remains. So it seems to me. So it seems to many people wiser than me. So it seems to me when I am in my deepest meditation and there is simply beingness, isness, presence, thoughts floating by, but no one there to grasp that thought, no one there to latch onto it. In Tibetan Buddhist meditation, it's called Shepna, the hook, taking the hook. If we didn't take the hook of all those thoughts, of all of our opinions, of all of our beliefs, if we didn't have that Shepna taking the hook, they would just simply pass us by, and we would observe and think, that's interesting. Same with all these aspects of our personality. If we didn't take that hook, they would pass us by in a thought cloud, and we would remain that ever-present awareness, thinking, well, that's an interesting personality. So, Destiny is asking how Reverend is. I think he had to go. I appreciate, even when somebody has that quick stop in, the respect they show of, you know what, I see you live. I just want to show some support. Destiny, you do that quite a bit, and I really appreciate that as well. And it has set up a model for me. When I see people that I subscribe to, even if it's not people, that I have a great interaction with, but I know that they're trying to grow their channel. I know that they are trying to reach out. I'd like to stop by and just put in a good thought, put in a good word, let them know I got you back. I'm supporting you in the way that I can right now, as Reverend Terminator just did, and as Destiny does quite a bit as well. You guys have set a really good example for me to follow. Really appreciate that. Another excellent point from Destiny: alone doesn't always mean that you're lonely. This is true. And you know what? Loneliness itself isn't necessarily always a bad thing either. It creates a sense of empathy, sense of compassion. And it also helps us turn within. You're never truly alone if you fall in love with the person that you are. How could you be? Befriend yourself. Always amazed at the rush to get into relationships that I see some people do. As soon as they're out of a relationship, they start looking for another, or as soon as they meet someone, they start immediately thinking, not everyone, of course, maybe this is a person, I'm tired of being alone, I want to be with somebody. And a lot of times we end up making compromise, which we should never do. Not in that regard. Of course, we compromise in business, we compromise in friendship, we compromise in negotiations, politics, things like that. But compromising your own integrity, compromising your own well-being, compromising your own sense of love and who you are, you should never do that. I don't think you should ever do that. Because what do you get out of it? It's not true love. In the Course in Miracles, they would call it a special relationship. A special relationship is when we have to work hard to make someone feel special, including ourselves. When true love is that easy recognition of specialness itself, that everything is special in that way, that love is all inclusive. Destiny says, yes, indeed. That's why we're here, to help others on their journey. You know, when I years ago thought about starting a YouTube channel, I was warned off of it by my stepdaughter. Um, Even Mocha was afraid that it might be a little too rough and tumble for me. Um, that it would be difficult for me to navigate the the meanness, the pettiness, the trolls, and that I'd end up walking away depressed, thinking there's no hope. People are just too mean. And yes, I've had some trolls. You know what though? Some great supporters ended up coming here to troll me for whatever reason and end up staying. I think if you're sincere, if you are willing to engage with some, maybe not with all, um, take things as they come, take things with a smile, have a sense of humor about yourself, and in fact, become aware of how you respond. If I respond in anger and defensiveness, um, and with a high opinion of myself, how dare you talk to me that way? Um, or, you know, even believing what they say is true. That's the thing about defending yourself that way. Now, I don't think you should ever allow abuse to happen to you. There is the right time to defend yourself. But to defend myself against someone's opinion means that I'm giving that opinion more weight than my own belief of my own inherent beauty, of my own inherent sense of love, of my own inherent beingness. That's untouchable. When I'm deeply in tune with that, why would your opinion of me matter? There's that great book by Terry Cole Whitaker in the 1970s. What you think of me is none of my business. Not none of your business, none of my business. It truly isn't. What you think of me, most especially what you think of me from not even knowing me, from being not even a random person, but a random name across the internet. Wow, why would that even affect me in the least? You say that I look like this, or you question my whatever, you question my intelligence, my ability to speak. Who cares? It's not even your opinion because you don't know me enough to have an opinion. And I don't mean this personally to anyone. I always tell, hey, trolls are welcome here for a number of reasons. One, it's my understanding that it's increasing my viewership. You're actually doing me a favor. I appreciate it, honestly. And two, I get to engage, and who knows, maybe change your mind. Maybe you'll have a different opinion when you leave. Maybe you won't. Um, Destiny says, wow, you're talking deep, Eric. You're confirming a lot of my thoughts and plans. Well, thank you. I think that we have a collective thought, Destiny. I can't lay any claim to thinking deep without the contributions of your thoughts. I think we're in a thought flow, and we're feeding off of this together. And I think that happens quite a bit when you and I talk. And it happened, you and I and Reverend Terminator the other day. Was that yesterday or the day before? As well as with Hybrid Jim, Duncan Walsh. Um, it's that synchronistic flow. That's the wonderful thing about YouTube. Overall, I have not been met with anything but kindness from people. Yeah, there's a few, remarks, a few whatever. As I said previously, means absolutely nothing. But overall, man, it's expanded what I want to do. That Um, I've mentioned before, I lost my business, small business, personal training, um, during COVID. I couldn't bring people to my house to train. I couldn't go to other people's houses to train. I was a full-time caregiver for my father, so his safety was my only concern. Fortunately, we live in a house that's paid for. I had some money saved up. Um, my father was always um, careful with money. We were all doing okay. He passed away. I inherited the house with my brother. We decided to share the house to split the cost. Both of us have our own thing that we want to do. Um, I didn't feel ready to restart any kind of business. I was lost, not so much in a bad way, but lost in the fact that what do you do when you're a caregiver and the person that you were caring for is no longer there? And I started posting my burpee videos, and I started thinking more of what I wanted to do. I still want to be a caregiver, but you know what? I care about you. Whoever it is that comes to this channel right now and clicks a button just to even peek, what is this crazy guy talking about? I'm talking about the fact that even though I don't know you, even though you're faceless people out there on the internet, I care about every single one of you. So I come here every day. I have a conversation for the things that I'm passionate about. Some days it flows, it clicks. I feel like I'm on point. Some days it doesn't, and I stumble around. Even those days are worth it. Because then you get to come here and you get to see someone who's sincere, but they're stumbling around a bit. They're making mistakes. They're tongue-tied. They don't know what word's going to come next. It's all perfectly fine because you know what? Maybe you could do better. Maybe you can join me and help me. Or maybe I can join you and help you. It's been a wonderful community. I'm actually honored to be part of it and accepted by those who've accepted me. Most importantly, Destiny and Reverend and Hybrid Jim and Duncan and It Is What It Is, Paul from Oregon, all the people who stopped by even for a moment. So I'm going to do my best um, to see if I can grow my channel, to pay my taxes. I've mentioned before, my savings are dwindling a bit because taxes, I don't mind paying taxes. It's important to do. Support my community. We have wonderful schools here, even though I am not a parent to a school-age person any longer. Step parent, as it was. Um, let's see. Let's go back to Destiny here. When surrendering our power over to others, then we're given our power to be controlled by them. Perfectly said. And Destiny is reminding me that it was yesterday. Great talk with Reverend Terminator. And she says, "You're not crazy, Eric. You have a beautiful love for humanity." Thank you. Paradox. Hey, my new friend Paradox. Destiny, do you know Paradox? If you don't, he has a wonderful channel that is right up your alley. Music, fitness, all kinds of stuff. You gotta definitely check him out. Paradox says, "Yo man, got you on while I'm doing my chores." Thank you. I appreciate that. This is basically the daily live talk about whatever I can think to talk about for about 30 minutes, sometimes longer. I set a record about 3 or 4 days ago, hour and a half talking with Hybrid Jim, Reverend Terminator, Destiny. I think Paul from Oregon was here. It is what it is. Great company fuels a conversation, for sure. As I mentioned with Destiny, when I get the opportunity to have a conversation with Destiny, It really is like it's not individual thinkers. It's this flow of inspiration. It's a river of inspiration, and we both get to dip in, gather thoughts, and then bring them out in our own interpretation. But it's that infinite river itself that's always present. It's always waiting for us. And that's where good music comes from. Good musicians aren't sole creators of something that never existed before. They get to dive into that river of creativity itself, and they get to sample. They see this and they see that, and they get to pick things out. Pick out this phrase and try it on, and then pick this phrase and put it together. If you start claiming that stuff for your own, then you limit your accessibility to it. But when you dive head first into that, let's do away with the river analogy, and let's say the ocean of creativity, the limitless ocean of creativity. When you get to dive head first in, it's all there. How could you ever be stuck for words? How could you ever be stuck for a melody? It's already playing. Beethoven said that he heard every symphony in his head already composed. He wasn't sampling. He wasn't saying, I wonder if this note will go with this note. He just tuned in, and we all can tune into that. Paradox says, nice one, man. Thank you. Appreciate that. And Destiny says, no, she was saying hello to Paradox and happy Thursday. Paradox, Destiny Forever Walks, PhD, is, man, she's a fountain of wisdom, and she's a treadmill dancer. Putting out good information and supports everyone in the community. So I'm glad this is a place that you guys got a chance to say hi. Paradox says, appreciate the calmness. It's just because I lack energy. So I love thinking of inspiration that way. This is why in 23 years of writing every single day of my life, I've never been stuck thinking, what can I write about? Look out the window. We'll go for a walk and come back. There's everything to write about. How can we ever say, I'm stuck, there's nothing to write about? If you look out the window, and there are billions of stars, there's planets, there is a sun and a moon, there's blades of grass, think about those blades of grass in the Talmud, earliest sections of the Bible. It says, above every blade of grass, there's an angel whispering, grow, grow. So above every blade of grass, there's an angel whispering, grow. Imagine what we have whispering in our ear right now. I can tell you exactly what we have right now. We have the entire universe whispering in our ear right now, the music of the spheres. That's why I have that deep love for classical music and a deep, deep, deep love for jazz, because that's the music of the spheres. And I might throw in the Beatles too. And it's all there to tune into. Tune in. Universe. One verse, song. One song. One song in an infinite variety that, again, we get to pick what we want to listen to and what we want to hold in our hands, what we want to put down on a piece of paper or on a screen or lay down a track on keyboards. If you watch the Jay Jordan, he's inspired. Where's that inspiration come from? Can you go to school for inspiration? Can you take an online course in inspiration? Can you even read a book in inspiration and have it give it to you? That's like saying you can learn silence. To understand silence, that's it. I'm very familiar with Muji Paradox. great, great teacher. And again, he's someone, he'll talk, but most of his teaching is from silence. I was actually just talking of Ramana Maharishi, who was one of his disciples, was the guru to Mujay. Some people don't like Mujay. They think that he fosters that sense of devotion. But I think, not having been in his presence, so I can only surmise, I think when you're in his presence, devotion comes naturally, and it's not devotion for the man Mujay, it's devotion for the divine that he represents. I think he'd probably say something similar. So inspiration and silence are really the same thing. And again, you can't teach it, you can't learn it, but you can experience it anytime. Destiny says the universe is calling us and the universe is listening to us. Just my thoughts, Eric. Then it stopped running through my head. I agree with you. Almost always, again, like I said, it's similar thoughts. I like to think of it as we open to our own place as the universe. No separation between us and the universe, uniself. So it's easy to listen to when we want to. Most of the time, we listen to our own incessant voice, our own demands, our own smaller personality. As George Harrison wrote, I, me, mine. All through the days, all through the nights, I, me, mine, I, me, mine, I, be mine. It's the voice of the ego. Ego is not necessarily bad, very useful to help us navigate the universe. And it's also fun. Having an individual self, having an individual sense of self is fun when it no longer causes suffering. But when we believe ourselves to exclusively be that ego, that voice in our head, it's no longer fun. It brings a lot of suffering to the world, a lot of suffering to other people, because we place that priority on self. My belief, my opinion, my demands. Means you either agree with me or you're other. You're an enemy. You're someone that I need to keep an eye on. Make sure that you don't get in my way and cause me any trouble. And then, of course, that person's thinking the same thing. All kinds of problems. But when you take the ego as that sense of fun, that sense of play, that you get to pretend to be this person. You get to pretend to be an Eric. You get to pretend to be a Destiny. You get to pretend to be a Paradox. Then you got a whole lifetime of that pretending. And also, when you're that awareness, realizing it's pretending, you get to have so much fun taking Eric in all these different directions. Eric can be an ultra runner for 10 years. Then he can be a burpee guy for 10 years. Then he could be whoever what for another 10 years. Knock on wood that I got another 10 years. It's truly limitless. So, all right, guys. Speaking of limitless, I'm at my limit. I'm at just about 45 minutes. It's coming to my attention that, generally speaking, after 45 minutes, no one needs to hear anything that I have to say any longer, including me. Let's see. Destiny says the ego is definitely not always our enemy. And that's the funny thing is, in certain spiritual circles, it's annihilate the ego. You can't. But you can be aware of the ego. I don't want to say you can't. Some have. Ramana Maharishi has. But there's no need to at all. Paradox says, great chat, brother. Thank you. I will be tuning in for more of these. Appreciate that very much. I'm really happy that you stopped by and added so much added to the flow of the conversation. That's what makes it so great. Um, Destiny, if you get a chance, please check out his channel. Great stuff. And I'm looking forward to diving in more myself. And Destiny, thank you very much. Appreciate you being here. Paradox, I appreciate you being here as well. Be back tomorrow morning for burpees, tomorrow afternoon to chat. Destiny says, thanks again, Eric. Nice to meet you, Paradox. And Paradox says, peace, folks. Peace, guys. Take care.